Welcome to a new episode of Becoming Breathwork, the podcast. My name is Sanni Parkkinen, and here with me, Katja Markelova. I always forget to say our names, but there they are, our names. In this episode, we will talk about becoming breathwork. We will talk about the name of the podcast, the approach, and we are trying to clarify it to ourselves as well. So this might be practitioner specific episode, as all of them. Let's see what comes out of this. Context is breathwork, but also beyond. Katja, how are you doing?
I am already in my full-on math professor mode, writing things away on my piece of paper. And the big question for this episode for me is, can you hold a bigger field? Yeah, we just had a little chat before hit record. Kind of the whole point of, let's call it healing, quote unquote, transformation, shape-shifting, like whatever the reason is why we do any of this. It only can happen when someone can hold a bigger field. Because when we soup in our own soup, right, we cannot see beyond our own limitation.
Yes.
And when a practitioner cannot see beyond their own limitation or cannot hold the bigger field than we can hold, then nothing much will happen. I mean, it can be fun and like temporary relieving of things, and it's just, I don't know, like something one might like to do. But for the real cellular transformation, and I mean like really on a cellular level, DNA, epigenetics, morphic, shape-shifting of the body, we need a bigger field. And then the question to any practitioner, which might be also a confrontational question, can you hold a bigger field? And to me, becoming breath work is first about the ability to work with fields, to differentiate, to recognize where am I as a facilitator, where am I standing as a practitioner first? What kind of field am I able to hold? Where are my people? What is happening at the meeting point of me standing in that field and my people coming with a specific, let's call it an issue or a question or whatever it is, like distortion. Like I like to speak about these things as like a certain distortion in the field when the flow of light gets interrupted somehow. Like what is happening at the meeting point? And am I, as a practitioner, able to meet the need of my people from the place where I am standing?
Yes. And this requires some kind of knowledge, understanding of where am I even standing.
Exactly. Exactly.
And to answer that question, in my opinion, we can never truly know that or know ourselves without knowing the breath, which like everything comes back to the breath as well. And this is why, well, not solely because of this, but the freedom of breath and kind of allowing the breath to breathe, it is a super important principle because we can never know the truth by affecting it, like affecting the state or affecting something even before we are aware of that. Where should we go from here? Okay, I say one more thing. Okay,
into the door number 2.
Into the door number.
Let's go. Let's go into the door number 2.
Yes, the last episode, we mentioned 2 doors. Door number 1 and door number 2. And we find that the door number 2 is a very becoming breathwork a specific thing. So Katja, can you repeat something about the doors and tell more about them?
Let's see. So the door number 2 is something kind of a mainstreamy approach to breathwork specifically, but also anything, any healing, any self. Huh? Door number 1. Did I say number 2?
Yes.
No, because I'm like, I am as a
Ending.
as a
Door
as a
number
being, I'm already like I'm way through the door number 2.
Yes.
So going back to door number 1 is difficult. It's a mental process for me, so I'm trying. Here, this is me trying. Door number 1 is a mainstreamy contemporary approach to definitely breathwork, and I would say most of healing modalities and therapy, self-development, whatever, like all this kind of stuff.
Mm.
And it is a way of going straight into the thing. If we're speaking breathwork specific, that would be a way of modulating the breath to achieve something. Yeah, there's a conditional relationship to the breath. There's always like, oh, so I'm going to do this. So I'm going to feel my feelings. So I'm going to feel this relief. And then I can go out and do my whatever, my everyday life again. So not a little less like a zombie.
Mm.
Which is again, this is the ask me how I know situation, not any kind of judgment or shaming. Yeah, this is speaking to human nature as such. And at the door number 1, this is also where trauma work happens by working on trauma. At the door number 1, this is where psychology lives, I would say. This is where we identify, we diagnose ourselves with something. Like, I'm feeling this thing.
Mm.
It must move because I said so.
Mm. Mm.
There's a lot of like self-diagnosing at the door number 1, I would say. There's also at the door number 1 quite a lot of very often hidden pathology.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yep.
something is wrong. I don't like this. This must go. So I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna breathe it away, breathe the stress away.
Mm. Mm.
And I'm just remembering also because of we doing this and we have a lot of conversations and my Instagram showing me like all kinds of ads, breathwork related.
Yeah.
And one of the ads is a one device. I'm not gonna name the device, but the slogan goes something like "breathe your stress away," literally.
Mm.
So this is the door number 1.
Mm. Mm.
And then there's door number 2, which is what we would call advanced work,
Mm.
which to me is, I don't like, is it advanced or is it really going back to human nature as really like being human?
Yeah.
So it starts with attunement. And it starts with relationships. And it starts with the subtle perception. And not just subtle, but through perception with the what we would call like the 3D senses, the physical senses, and subtle perception of the thing. And let's take, I don't know, like a certain emotion or a certain thought pattern, like a thought form, or a state of, I don't know, anxiety or depression. And for me, I'm just gonna take myself as a as a guinea pig, as usual. Anxiety, right? Default pattern, my favorite. Not, but it is, right? My body knows how to go there, like in instant.
Mm.
And so, a way of approaching anxiety from the door number 1 would be to go and amplify the feeling of anxiety, maybe like apply a certain breath template, a certain breath modulation, and to imitate the anxious breathing, to imitate and to feel the same emotion, the same physical sensation, the same mental processing of my pattern of anxiety.
Mm. Or
Which
it could also be that we try to breathe it
away.
away. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so to calm down, to breathe away, to down regulate and apply all
Mm.
the kinds of techniques. Suppress.
Mm.
Great.
Mm.
Works great.
Yep.
Right? It works. Right? But the question is, what do you want? This is the question of all questions. And then the door number 2 of approaching and going into this would be attunement of anxiety. And in my work, I really work a lot with principles of animism, which is also comes back to my ancestry. So like it's not like taken from somewhere, and I don't impose this worldview on anybody, right? You don't have to agree with me, but this is how I have a relationship with anything. So from this place, I might want to just look and get to know anxiety as almost like as a living, breathing being with its own sentience and consciousness, and attune to that experience living in my personal field, probably living in all my relational fields, definitely for sure living in my family field, in ancestral field. And we can also go and open it up more to all kinds of different fields. And so the distortion, this like kind of as a breaking point will live somewhere. And I know for me, it lives a lot in my personal field. Through relationships, again, through connection to a lot of my anxiety comes from the ancestral field, a lot of that. And so in the door number 1, I'm just like thinking very carefully about doors.
Yeah.
In the
You're
door
very
number
precise
1,
now.
in the door number 1, I could approach my anxiety from the personal field only and work on it and change my breath or breathe it away or whatever. And I would only work on my anxiety in the personal field. In the door number 2, I suddenly realized that my anxiety not only lives in my personal field, but also in my ancestral field. And so I can approach it from that point of view, from the ancestral field, and have a relationship with it and get to know it for what it is. And from that place, allow for that being that anxiety is, that exists in this intersectional field of all fields, to tell me things. Yeah, because inherently everything has this underlying intelligence moving through it and through us. And then instead of going and like, oh, well, let me fix this because this is super uncomfortable. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to have panic attacks, which is like, I totally get it because ask me how I know, right? But instead of going through relationship and attunement to the thing and allowing the thing to move you instead, that is kind of it might sound like a longer route, but it isn't.
Yes.
It's kind of a shortcut, right? But with a big caveat, big side note, fine print, read the fine print. It requires a lot of preparation and a lot of cultivation of subtle perception and attunement skill, which is, to me, this is the foundation of becoming breath work.
Yeah. And I agree. It requires preparations, attunement, subtle perception, but at the same time, the insight can be spontaneous as long as the practitioner or the space holder can hold all that and can hold that field that is happening. You don't need to have, because quite often we do develop and come up with the language after our experience. And this also makes what, like yoga, any kind of wisdom tradition cannot be taught conceptually. The experience can never be taught. It is only like it can only be transmitted. And when we talk about transmission, the field that the space holder practitioner is holding becomes much, much more important than any technique or any like direct path, because the field is kind of a holding the wisdom in itself and allows for the breath. Now that, yes, we are still talking about breath and breath work, to kind of a work, like be the precise alchemical agent, be the opening, be the access, be the portal for this kind of knowledge, this kind of very intimate relationship to be cultivated. So yes, okay, that was my my take on the door number 2. Yes, exactly. This might, yeah, I agree. It might sound a bit, longer or complicated, but at the same time, it holds so much more power into it. And one example that I often I've been working with the nervous system and the breath for so many years, and I have always, like, in me, I have fought against the fixing, or that we are regulating or managing stress, or we're trying to increase our window of tolerance, because life should not be tolerated. We are not here to tolerate things, even though at times it really feels like that when we are in this, especially if we are chronically stressed and we're like, I don't want to be more stressed. Like, I need to tolerate life more, because I have this hard boundary that somehow is there for a good reason, like you often say. Like, it's there for a good reason, because life has become too much to handle. But at the same time, that might be the exact reason why it is so hard to live the life in this true expression or full expression. And coming back to the management, like stress management and stress regulation. Um, and the thing why I started this rant was that I've often wondered, like, how can we work from the truly holistic way, in a way that we are not changing the underlying patterns, but what word should I use here? Fine tuning, um, aligning the underlying patterns, so that we can find more freedom in our lives, rather than we're trying to put ourselves into a even tinier box of, oh, I do all these techniques because I need to regulate my stress, or all these impressions and input that I receive all the time. And that gives me freedom. Yes, in some sense it does. In your personal field, yes, it might, and it does. But how can we work with this thing, or hard to explain this,
Words.
from this bigger perspective? In my opinion, the bigger perspective has always been the core of any wisdom tradition, or yoga, or way of viewing the world, or worldview, where our personal field is not even close the most important thing, or our personal struggle, or our personal my problems, my stuff, my thing. And of course, in your experience, it is. And in my experience, also, my problems are the biggest problems. But how can we relate to that and attune with
Mm.
that in a larger context and bigger field, so that, in order that, oh, no, not that we need to do it in order that, but that kind of gives us the doorway into
Yeah.
um, the underlying patterns that might be ancestral, that might be, and is often archetypal, that has an own mythic consciousness or will as well, because that doesn't really live in your whole, like, the personal, in the personal field per se. You might
And
get
from
access to it, yes, but hmm.
yeah, absolutely. And like all fields are interpenetrating each
Yeah.
other. And I've seen it happen so very often when people like desperately try to fix an ancestral or archetypal thing in their personal field,
Hmm.
or a collective shame in the personal field. And it just doesn't work and doesn't work and doesn't work. You try to breathe it away and scream it away, and it just still doesn't work. And like it makes all the sense. And then back to the question, as a practitioner, as a facilitator of whatever you do, can you hold a bigger field? Can you also differentiate where you stand? And as a practitioner, you are also a representational doorway, like a symbolic doorway to the field of possibilities. And when you only hold space, and again, I just want to be like super clear that this is not a shaming of any kind of like, oh, you should know better than that, because this is not being taught. And this is something I've discovered like for myself through trial and error and through just doing a lot of stuff, and then realizing like, oh, that was not optimal. That was very, very suboptimal.
Mm.
And having a lot of conversations and having a lot of friction and rupture as well with it.
Mm.
Right? Or if you only facilitate things from standing in the mental field, in the mental place, the healing or the wave of health you are facilitating will be rooted there as well.
Mm. Mm.
The moment you can ground and anchor and find yourself as a, again, I love this as a coordinates to stand in, as a full authentic mature adult self
Mm.
in a bigger field, whatever that is, in a relational field of the group you're holding, a relational field of your community, or ancestral and archetypal and all kinds of fields, right? The moment you find yourself in the coordinates, grounded and anchored in a bigger field,
Mm.
the effects of the work that you do, and it doesn't matter what you do at this point,
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
will just be like otherworldly, but also very applicable.
Yes.
And so in this sense, this is what what I've seen so many times. Like we try to work on things
Mm.
and we poke at it. And this is the door number one.
Mm. Mm.
poke it. And I call it go on trauma digging expeditions.
Mm. Mm.
And the more you go on trauma digging expeditions, the more trauma you will
Mm.
excavate.
Yeah.
And the more you will find, and the more you will like, oh, I need to work on this as well. Like, oh shit, it never ends.
Yes. And and in my experience, the the experience here can be it can happen in any kind of work or any kind of modality.
Mm-hmm.
And for many, the first where this is being realized is like talk therapy, or just talking
Yeah.
about stuff does not
Yes.
work. And might leave you with like, oh shit, I have so many issues and I have so many problems, and now I'm so overwhelmed by all this.
Yes.
This is where I think many of us have been too. And not to say that it's not relevant or it's not important, like talking with a good friend about something that is going on in a life can be the most healing thing ever. But when we talk about the, you know, the trauma or something that is like the lived experience, often it's simply overwhelming to just, you know, go around it like this. And now I'm doing something with my hands, which is like a messy circling, spiraling thing that how we tend to approach any kind of issue,
Mm-hmm.
eruption, wound, and that we might have. Okay, I
And
have
this,
some questions.
yeah, tell me.
Where do we stand? Like, how on earth does a practitioner know? Or is it something that you need to verbalize, need to um, make precise, or be able to communicate? Where do you stand? Like, what is your ground? Because I can, from my experience, say that I had like no freaking idea who I am until I
Well,
somehow started to
good
get
to
like
know. At this point, like come to our training. We have no idea.
no, I have now
I know,
some
I
idea.
know, I know.
Until I started to read the hints of like what is happening in the participant's experience. And that can be scary because you're like, okay, now I'm holding the table, like, oh shit,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
a witch. I'm like, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yep.
and this is also the danger when you and where a lot of this like abuse of power and these kind of situations can take place when a practitioner notices that, okay, I'm powerful, or this technique or something like this is a powerful thing. And then we tend to go into this like, ooh, let me heal everyone, let me come to the room and I will just heal everyone, or I will create this experience. But being truly grounded in and where you are is a little bit different thing. Like that's not the that's not the healer complex taking over, or the yeah, let me come and and make everything better. That's not it. But through the experience of the participants, many practitioners do start to get an idea of like, okay, but what am I? Where do I stand? What is my blueprint in a way? And to me, quite often I stand in the archetypal, as you also mentioned, and we have had not like we have had many conversations about many things, and might place that archetypal in a little bit different way.
Mm-hmm.
My go-to is very often the underworld. I had a period of teaching breathwork and working with people where I was like underworld, and then I started to be in this point like, okay, but am I affecting the same way a little bit like, am I modulating my breath, but am I affecting the field or the room or the space too much through this where I am standing? Of course I am, but I had to really have this like conversation with myself, not even through any gesture, not through any words, but just through my mere presence of where do I stand. Am I interfering too
Yes.
much? Too
Well,
much.
that's the question.
Yes.
Because the field, the relational field,
Mm.
always organizes itself around the facilitator.
Yes.
And that's again back to the point, can you hold a bigger field? Back to the point, you are a representational doorway.
Yes.
And then back to the point of the last episode, the previous episode, of am I the one driving the tide or am I the one who is listening to the tide? And when you are
Yes.
in the place of neutral,
Mm.
following the tide,
Yeah.
and the relational field of the group or one-on-one work, or even just like in family, in your life, in everyday life, the field organizes itself around the facilitator. And then you become the representational doorway for the tide versus like, ooh, I am the one who's creating the experience. I am cool and like,
Yeah.
awesome. Like, let me
Yeah.
like drive everyone into this big cry. Like,
Yes.
look at me. I made everybody cry.
Yeah. 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 You're standing in neutral. That's a very key thing I find.
Mm-hmm.
I find here. So both you can continue from this, what I'm saying now. How can we, as practitioners, the same way, what are the kind of the core competencies for the practice or for the participants as well? Listening first, attuning first, and some might talk about the channeling, like being the representation of what is happening in the field. How do we practice that? We have already been to like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
being in the presence of someone who can hold a larger field, because that kind of gives you, my personal experience is that kind of gives you that like your mushroomy antennas or sensors become like, "Woo, yes!" And then,
Mm-hmm.
then I can kind of I can receive so much stuff. And this sounds very, sometimes when we talk with this through these worlds, it sounds very like spiritual. This is spiritual work, but it's not like spiritual in the way that we're talking about some kind of not practical things, because this is very, very practical. This is very lived experience. This is very real life stuff. And not to say that spiritual life is not real life.
Like, careful there. Careful there. You
I'm
better
so
stop.
careful with these words.
Stop talking now. Like, digging
So
yourself
sorry.
with every layer, like digging yourself deeper. Like, where is this going?
No, I'm just
But
saying, like, I do breathing therapy. And working with dysfunctional breathing, working with someone who has severe um, imbalance in the nervous system, for example. Like, this is very practical stuff. Like, I'm still working as a practitioner. It's I don't change my role. I might change my wordings. I might attune to how do I meet this person in front of me in the best way possible. But I'm not changing who I am. I'm still working with my leg standing somewhere. I'm grounded in something.
yeah.
And I'm trying to have this like neutral place where I don't try to know, or I'm not from beforehand, like knowing what is best for this person, or what is best for this group, or have an idea of experience that these people should experience. Um, but yeah, just making that point that it's not something that I need to, be this camelant where I don't even know where I am or belong, or I should only work with these people because I can meet with this place where I am standing. Okay, now you can continue before I dig myself even deeper.
No, like all of
Mm,
this is just speaks about the range.
mm,
The range that you can be able to inhabit as a practitioner and navigate, and also be very discerning around things. Because, for example, like I am also very educated in somatics,
mm,
but I don't do somatic work. Do people come to me and ask for it sometimes? Yes, they do. And then I will refer them out. I can, but I don't do this because this is not the best. Like, I'm not the best practitioner to meet someone in their somatic need.
mm,
I know that about myself at this point. Like, I just get super bored. I'm like, no,
mm,
let's not. And I know, like, and many such brilliant somatic based practitioners who work with the soma, who can attune to the soma at the speed that the soma needs.
mm, mm,
I'm not one of those.
mm,
Like I'm very, as you know, very very fast, and the movement also tends to happen very fast, and I can meet it, and it will move fast. But for a lot of people, it will be just like yeah, the needs completely need to be a different pacing,
mm,
and yet I am able to find myself and orient myself when I do find myself in the field of soma,
mm,
my own or other people or the group.
mm.
And why I can differentiate when a soma arrives and there's a need for slowness.
Yeah.
And that this is also something that I don't think I've ever heard anybody like speak about this, definitely not in the breathwork scene,
Mm,
about the space holding and relational field and how everything, like how that works, and again how the field organizes itself around the facilitator.
yeah.
And if you are only counting breath from a very mental place,
Mm,
like what is going to happen in a session? Like,
mm,
not much. The spoiler alert.
mm,
Not
mm.
much.
I mean,
Um
there might be some kind of experience of coherence,
mhm,
but it is always, as you said, like the field organizes itself around the practitioner, so it is then on a certain field or frequency, or the
mhm,
resonance is there, which does not resonate with everything, and we are fully aware that this work, that or our presence does not resonate with everyone, and that
yep,
is we are completely okay with that. So it's not that this podcast is educational, of course, but we also offer becoming breathwork advanced practitioner training, which then goes deeper into
mhm.
these topics and theories, and also the experience. Mm.
Yeah, and this is a meta conversation around a
Yeah,
relational field.
yeah,
And back to the question, am I being met?
mm.
Yeah, because some needs that we have and you have, they might be met through psychology, through talk therapy or whatever. Great, like all great. And there are some needs that can only be met through deep relational attunement.
Yes. And I find that the most interesting thing is, and this is a kind of a, like, back to the thing, like, does the practitioner need to know where and
Mm.
what is kind of the some kind of blueprint or the default, where do we stand, or where we kind of like, what is
Mm-hmm.
our favorite place in a way.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I don't think that we need to know it intellectually, because anyways the work is beyond intellect. But
Mm-hmm.
also the participants do not need to know, like, oh, I have this deep yearning
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
mythological or archetypal, or I want to work with my ancestral field. And some do have, like, some come to, like, there is something in the ancestral, like there is something in the ancestral, there is something
I have
something
a
something.
thing to say about this. This is like a lot of this comes from self-diagnosing.
Yes,
And
exactly.
most of the times it's not the case of what is actually going on. But
I
like this
agree.
is a side note.
I agree. So usually also you can meet the things that are there for you to be met through this neutral place.
Yeah.
Again, back to the attunement. Why the
Yes.
listening and tuning is so important in also like what do I even need now?
Mm-hmm.
And most of us come to this realization early on when we are like, oh, I have no idea how am I even living my life? Like, what do I even need? Who am I? And the needs being met is the first question, like question of like having feeling some kind of agency. Okay, the boundary. I need to say no more. Ooh, I need more, care. I need more hugs. I need more nourishing food.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot be vegan anymore because that's not like nourishing for my female body in
Yeah.
40s. Whatever it is, like this is this is the basic need work. But also, it's not something when we talk about the breathwork context or this kind of work that we are facilitating. You don't need to know intellectually
Mm-hmm.
or in your mental what the need is. Often, it can be an itch or a kind of like yearning. And this is where how I lived my life for many, many years. And this is also what kind of words I give it now. Is like I
Mm-hmm.
have this, like I know that there is more, but not from the
Mm-hmm.
place of like being
Yeah,
desperate
yeah, yeah.
about that I need to like, oh, I want to experience the life in its fullest, or I want to expand my consciousness. But this like deep, like the life wanting to learn more about life through me. And this
I
is
call
also
it,
how
I
we
have
how
a,
we would
yeah.
talk about the expansion of consciousness or the absolute, how it manifests, how it expresses itself is through this deep yearning, this like itch, this will of like, and I'm doing this. I always do stuff with my hands.
Yeah.
By the way, hands are super potent pathways as well to
Some
this kind of
archetypal
stuff.
gestures right there.
Archetypal gestures. Well, like, yes, the like wanting to learn more and know more about itself through me. That's the thing. And to me, that was kind of like I don't know what it is, but let me be curious enough in order for that to show up. Hmm.
I call this mythic hunger.
Oh, yes.
And this is like this insatiable hunger, but it doesn't come from not enoughness or
Yeah.
this like capitalistic, like, oh, I need more and more and more, like this greedy, grippy place. But it comes from a pure desire rooted in life source
Yeah.
of this mythic hunger for more.
Yeah.
And oh boy, this is like a very uncomfortable place for a lot of people, for me as well, is like to recognize and realize, like, oh, I do want more.
Hmm. Hmm.
I want more life in my life.
Yeah.
Like, oof.
Yeah.
Am I allowed?
Yes, exactly. That can be an uncomfortable place because you are meeting and facing the need of like, but I actually want more.
Mm-hmm.
Even though everything is good, like
Yeah.
I'm happy, things are good, I'm in a good relationship, like whatever it is, that like the current status. Uh, but the wanting more can be a very uncomfortable place to also like, yes, recognize. And I'm making a gesture with my face, like an expression of like this, like,
Yeah.
do I really want to go there? And that is
Yeah.
actually really a question that at least I often ask myself, like, do I really
Mm-hmm.
want to go there? Because I know that it's a new expedition. That's a new, that's something that allows the life to know more about itself through me. Um, but in many of us who have this mythic hunger, it's almost like inevitable. At some
Mm-hmm.
point,
Yes, absolutely. You
it
can
will come.
try
Yeah, you
for
can
some
try.
time. Good luck. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Because this is not something that, um, yeah, this is maybe it could be like a whole other conversation around choice, embodied choice, and will, and how it is very important, right, to have choice and have access to embodied choice and all these things. And this is kind of a
Mm,
hallmark also of nervous system, quote unquote, regulation.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like in many traditions, and if you look back in ancient traditions and indigenous traditions, um, it's flipped. It's the role clarity is like, yeah, the roles are flipped. You are the one who's being chosen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is like with mythic hunger, to me, this is the same kind of relationship. It's like,
Yes.
ooh, I didn't ask for that. Like, ooh, I wish I was normal.
Yeah.
Ooh, I wish I was just very satisfied with what I have and there was no yearning like deep inside.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh boy. But how does it relate to becoming breathwork? Of course, through who we are. And there are some basic principles or core competencies and truths in there. Uh,
To me, it's just like this
mm,
deeper and deeper and deeper relationality with breath as a fractal of life satisfies that hunger.
yes.
And it's like there's like every time I'm really like speaking to that aspect of breath or relationality or like the attunement and subtle perception, there's like a full body is like oh. And I don't even have words for it because it's a more of a body based an experience of like oh, there's like oh. And for this bit you need to watch YouTube to see what is actually happening.
Yeah, this
um,
has been a very, this episode has been very,
Very
embodied. A lot of,
very, very gesture based. Like there's a lot of archetypal gesturing happening.
mm, mm,
Um, but yeah, I don't think we can ever describe it in words in a way that will make sense. Yeah, because what you said like so many times at this point, like it goes so beyond the mental, intellectual understanding of things. And yes, to me also having an experience of this intellectual stimulation is also very satisfying. And so this is like one big part of this as well. And when people come and study with me and they're like, oh, finally, like all this feeling and slowness, like I'm so tired of this. I really want this, like the whole experience. And the intellectual satisfaction of being intellectually challenged by things and like figure things out, and the satisfaction of having this insight land through intellect and body and emotion and everything is like oh. So good, like this mythic hunger gets to be satisfied
mm,
through depth of of stimulation and relationality and this fractals of perception, which again breath as a fractal of life is one of the biggest things, or it's not a thing, but
yeah.
one of the biggest pathways to that.
Yes, exactly. I was coming to this like breath as a pathway, breath
Mm-hmm.
as an access, and not that it is, uh, again, you might remember, not a tool, not a technique, but something that helps us, because I find that breath helps us to attune with the the expanded fields, or this expanded
Yes.
fields, or blah, the larger whole,
Yes.
due to that breath is a fractal of it.
Yes.
And you sent today, I think, an email about Mythic
Yeah.
breath.
Yeah.
Please subscribe to Katja's email list, because there is some juicy stuff there. But this is exactly like
Yeah.
the Mythic breath. Breath can take. Oh, now we come to very juicy stuff. Breath is a mythic beast, and breath is a representation of so many things, as we are as well. And breath in us is the in the last episode we talked about breath being a pattern of life, or a configuration, geometric configuration of life. So breath can take forms, and as we breathe through something, it can take any form it needs. If it's the ancestral thread, it takes a representation of something guides you through it. Being a thread allows you to experience it. And all this, by the way, can happen in one breathing cycle. It doesn't need to have like a 1.5 hour session, follow these steps, and then you have come to a realization of something. It can happen but
Yes.
sometimes we need a little bit more time. Katja can also talk about that, because that's something that we have been conversing about the past days. So breath can take this, and it can be it is a very tangible thing. That's what I'm trying to say. And it is happening all the time. So it can kind of be something that carries you through whatever. This is also the languaging I often use, like, let the breath carry you. Let the breath be the carrier, not to say like breath is here and you are here, but to have this, have also, like, for those who want to get the satisfaction in an image, for example, the breath carrying you, or you are riding on the wings of your breath, or whatever. Like, this again brings a whole different aspect. Or the diaphragm as a jellyfish, or a whale, how whale communicates. Like, these are the juicy things that we love to work with. And yes, the breath becomes an agent, a vehicle.
Yes.
of life.
Boom. Mic drop. We brought this baby home. We talked about the meaning of life again.
Exactly. Yeah. How does that land? For me, it lands really well. And also, well, some of these references that we are making, like the myth or the mythology, you might need to listen to our Telegram channel, or read Katja's emails, or follow like a larger context, so that it makes more sense, or give us a comment and we will make an episode of it. But just saying that quite often these kind of representations, or imageries, or working with the fields, and giving, when I say giving a form to the breath, it's not really like we are putting breath into a box, or giving it a how it looks like or what it is, but it might help to paint the life or the world with a little bit new colors, different ways, so that you, because we are all the time, we are on this path of self-realization, or awakening, and every single one of us is there somewhere on the scale. Let's say that. It can be a spiral. It definitely is not like a linear thing. It is a spiral. It is a cycle. We are all the time here, and I come back to the simple saying, with language of it sounds easy. Like, life wants to know itself more through you and me, through us. That's the path that we are on. So it's not to say that we are giving a breath or this work a certain image, like we have in the Becoming Breathwork. There's a logo of whale, because we love whales, and whales are one very interesting thing to work.
Especially primordial whales.
Yes, primordial.
Specifically.
It's not to say that we give it like okay, your breath is now the whale. But it gives it a body. And I have heard this, like, many times, by those who want to be very, scientific about stuff, or just, just to tune to what is real and what is true. This is exactly the real world that we also talked about the last episode. It's not that the opposite of real world is unreal world, or something that is not true at all.
Yes.
But our experience is always more colorful, is always more vivid, but it requires, at least in the beginning, a little bit curiosity, and even this like leap of, let me look at it from a completely different angle or perspective. And to those who have no experience of this, it might sound like a fairy tale. You love to
Which
talk
it
about this
totally
like a
is.
myth
Yes.
is a fairy tale. It's not a fairy tale. We live myth. We all have a
Yeah,
myth. We all live a myth all the time. We just don't know what it is.
exactly.
Okay, I'm satisfied.
Good. Look at
But
you,
you made some
satisfying your mythic hunger.
you made some notes. Do you want to
I just made some
hmm,
notes for the next
okay.
several times,
All
several
right.
episodes.
Good.
So some juicy stuff will be coming.
For sure. So that was our episode then about becoming breathwork. Let's say the framework, the framework of becoming breathwork. As you notice, we are going to many directions, but it's not like they are somehow separate or somehow, threads of, they live in isolation from everything else. But we are maybe looking at them as access points, as
Mhm.
perspectives is in. And the fields, when we talk about the fields, they are also ways in. They are standing points, access points, where when we are in deeper and deeper or larger and larger connection with the bigger field, the life starts to open up in a very different way. And practically, what it means, life is easier. I mean, it's not easy, but it is
It
definitely
is EEE. It becomes
easy.
more EEE, effortless, effective, efficient.
Yes, we'll wrap up there. And
The end.
conversations will be continued. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for
We'll be back.
listening.